It felt like there was a cold wind. So 3 different clues for box number 3, right? He didn't know what buttons were. He didn't know how to eat soup. And when he blew on his soup, they felt a cold wind. Yes?
Weren't the mercury, like, thermometers that, like, go in your tongue and hand for some reason?
If they,
because, like, they were poisoning people?
well, if the mercury leaked out, then yes, that could poison you. It's not healthy to have mercury in your body. This is a very strange fellow indeed. The next morning, Katie watched the stranger from her bedroom window. He walked across the yard toward 2 rabbits. Instead of running into the woods, the rabbits took a hop in his direction. He picked one of them up and stroked its ears, then set it down. The rabbits hopped away, then stopped and looked back, as if they were expecting the stranger to follow. So what's the clue from this page for box number 4?
Animals like him.
Okay, the animals like him. Not only do they like him, it seems like they trust him, they know him.
Like he's their leader.
I mean, most animals are very skittish, right, around humans, but they actually went towards him. They trust him, they maybe know him, they like him. When Katie's father went into the fields that day, the stranger shyly tagged along. Mr. Bailey gave him a pitchfork, and with a little practice, he learned to use it well. They worked hard. Occasionally, Mr. Bailey would have to stop and rest, but the stranger never tired. He didn't even sweat. Yeah, Matt.
It's like Johnny Appleseed or something?
I don't know. Alright, Cheyenne, what would be one clue you'd put in box 5? Cheyenne, what would be one clue?
He never had to stop to rest.
Okay, he never had to stop to rest while he worked. And Ish, what would be the second one?
He didn't sweat at all?
He never sweat. Which is weird, right?
Yeah.
He's working so hard, you'd think he would be sweating up a storm. Again, this guy just becomes more and more puzzling. That evening, Katie sat with a stranger, watching a setting sun. High above them, a flock of geese in a perfect V formation flew south on the trip that they made every fall. The stranger could not take his eyes off the birds. He stared at them like a man who had been hypnotized. That's hard for me to say today. Okay, so my clue would be that he's mesmerized or he's interested, right, in the birds flying south for the winter. Yes, Wolfgang.
When they said he doesn't get tired when he's doing work, how's that possible? He doesn't sweat?
I don't know.
Cold-blooded animals don't sweat.
That's true. Cold-blooded animals don't sweat.
No, not all cold-blooded animals.
I don't know. 2 weeks passed and the stranger still could not remember who he was. But the Baileys didn't mind. They liked having the stranger around. He'd become one of the family. Day by day, he's grown less timid or shy. He seems to be happy to be around us, Mr. Bailey said to his wife. It's hard to believe he was a hermit. Alright, we're about ready to get to some kind of big clues, okay?
Wait, should we write in the spot?
Another week passed. Farmer Bailey could not help noticing how peculiar or weird the weather had been. Not long ago, it seemed like autumn was just around the corner. But now it still felt like summer. The warm days, it is as if the seasons couldn't change. The warm days made the pumpkins grow larger than ever. The leaves on the trees where it's green as they'd been 3 weeks ago. Remember the very beginning of the book, he talked about the farmer Bailey, this is his favorite time of year, it was starting to feel like fall in the air, and now it still feels like summer.
The man came and then it turned back.
Right, so the man came 3 weeks ago. So that would maybe be a clue that the seasons can't change. It should be fall, but it still feels like and looks like summer.
And then the birds are flying south.
But the birds are flying south, which means it is fall time. But it's not fall time, it's summertime.
He's a wizard.
Wizard Harry.
He's Harry Potter 2.0. Oh, he's Father Nature.
One day, the stranger climbed the highest hill on the Bailey farm. He looked to the north and saw a puzzling sight. The trees in the distance were bright red and orange. But the trees to the south, like those around the Baileys, were nothing but shades of green. They seemed so drab and ugly to the stranger. It would be much better, he thought, if all the trees could be red and orange. So we're going to have 2 things in box number 8. This is our first one, that the trees to the north look like fall, right? You can see them here in the foreground, right? The background, foreground, the front, excuse me. But the ones up front, the ones around the Baileys, the ones to the south, are all green like they're still summer. That was in 8. Or in 7, it's fine, whatever one you want. Alright, the stranger's feelings grew stronger the next day. He couldn't look at a tree's green leaves without sensing that something was terribly wrong. The more he thought about it, the more upset he became, until finally he could think of nothing else. He ran to a tree and pulled off a leaf. He held it in his trembling hand and without thinking, flew on it with all his might. What leaf? What color is the leaf in his hand?
Red or orange?
But he pulled a green leaf off because the Baileys have green trees in their yards.
He can change the weather.
He blew on it, and now it's what color? And why? How do our leaves go from green in the summer to orange, yellow, red in the fall? What changes them?
The wind.
Mother Nature.
When he
Not-
and like sunlight, the amount of sunlight and
The temperature is what changes them, right? We get a couple of those cold nights starting in the fall, and that's what changes our leaves. So he blew on it and it changed color.
He blew on the soup.
From green to fall colors, orange, red. At dinner that evening, the stranger appeared dressed in his old leather clothes. By the tears in his eyes, the Baileys could tell that their friend had decided to leave. He hugged them all once, then dashed out the door. The Baileys hurried outside to wave goodbye, but the stranger had disappeared. The air had turned cold, and the leaves on the trees were no longer green. So number 9, as soon as he left, the air turned cold and the leaves changed. It now feels and looks like fall. No, this book does not give us an answer. So I've had to make my own inference as well. I'll tell you what my inference is at the end. But I don't know the answer. This book does not have a teacher's edition with an answer at the end. Alright, our last clue. You ready? Every autumn, since the stranger's visit, the same thing happens at the Bailey farm. The trees that surround it stay green for a week after the trees to the north have turned. Then overnight, they change their color to the brightest of any tree around. And etched in frost on the farmhouse windows are words that say simply, "See you next fall." So our last clue is that etched in frost, every year they get a note from, I would assume, I'm thinking inferences, probably from the stranger. So, what I need you to do now at this point, you have one sentence starter at the bottom of your paper, right? It says, I can conclude that the stranger is, as well as I'm going to give you two other sentence starters that you can choose to use. So right now, while I pass out your sticker, which you're going to put at the bottom under the last box, look over your clues and start adding your schema to figure out who is the stranger. Okay, right now you're looking over your clues. We're adding in our schema. Right, because evidence plus schema equals an inference. Yep, right at the bottom. So you will end up with 3 different sentence starters that you can choose from. Right, if you want to talk like we're experts. We got to use proper vocabulary, proper language. We are going to be experts when we're all said and done, right? We're going to be expert readers. Alrighty, so you can use the first sentence or that says, I can conclude that the stranger is, and then you'll say, fill in the blank, because, and with your because, you need to give me evidence. You need to give me supports. You can't just make an inference out of the blue. I need your evidence, which you have now whole boxes of evidence. Or, you can use this sentence starter. There's 2 that I want to go over on the sticker. I'm just passing out the last 2. Okay. It says, based on the blank, that's where you put the clues. Based on, and you tell me the clues, the reader, you, can best infer the stranger is blank, right? Or, the third sentence starter you could use is after reading the stranger, the reader can infer the stranger is blank, right? Because, and then you give me your reasons why. So I want to see complete sentences. We should be writing in complete sentences with capitals and punctuation. So I'm going to ask you to share your sentence, and I want one of these sentence starters to be at the beginning of your sentence. I'm going to give you about
Good afternoon. Pardon the interruption, teachers. If there's any student who still needs a picture retake, this is the last call for the picture retake at the stage. Thank you.
You got 2 minutes to write. Yes. You can write in the back if you feel like there's more space. Yeah. You should tell me you're using one of the sentence starters. Who is the stranger, and why do you think that? What are your clues? What's your evidence? Yes, yes, you have to use one of those 3.
Can we use this one?
You can use the one that's on the paper, yes. I chose these sentence starters because these are literally questions pulled from SOLs. They use these types of wording for their questioning. I want us to be able to talk like that so that it's normal language for us. It's not something new, something we've never seen before. We're going to walk in and be experts, right? Next week I'm going to find time, and I wanted to read another book. It's called, also by Chris Van Allsburg, it's called The Wretched Stone. It's called The Wretched Stone. Okay? And that one I do know the answer to. But I have not had, in the 3 years I've read, I've not had one student get it.
That's all I'm gonna
Are we
do.
gonna get it all right?
Oh, I hope it changes. I hope you prove me wrong.
First of all, for the other book, are we gonna have another one? Are we gonna do it today?
No, not today. We don't have time. I want to give you time for independent time.
Can you give us your thing?
I will after you guys share your ideas. I'll give my idea after. Again, I'm not 100% sure if mine's correct, but I can, based off my evidence, make a pretty good argument. Alright, 1 more minute.
Did anybody in the other class get it?
Yeah, there are people who have a similar answer as me.
He's a fairy.
30 more seconds. I'm gonna ask you to share with someone around you first. See if they have a similar answer. Maybe their thinking changes your thinking. 10 more seconds. Alright, talk to somebody. I need to see everybody talking to somebody.
You wanna know why?
Isn't that guy you
Alright, I should be hearing those sentence starters being used.
Obviously, because he lost anyway.
Okay, I can
He creates I think he's Jack Frost because I can conclude that the stranger is Jack Frost.
On the frost at the end and the thing that says, I'll be back next year.
Similar things.
I'll make the frost on your window. I'll make you win again next year. I'm saving it I'll come back $15.
Wait, who do you think
5,
flowers?
4, 3, 2, 1. Voices off. Carla, what did you say? What? Give me your sentence.
I can conclude that the stranger is Jack Frost because when he blew on the soup, it was really cold and his temperature was on 0 Fahrenheit.
How many people had a similar answer to Carla? Saying Jack Frost of something of that nature. So about half the class had a similar train of thought. Alright, Kevin, what was yours since I see your hand up for Jack Frost?
I can conclude that this stranger is God because all the things that he did when he was close and God can do that stuff.
That is true. Alright, Thomas. What did you say?
He doesn't want to say God.
You chose God as well?
No, I made up my own guy. Father Nature.
Father Nature, kind of like there's a Mother Nature. Okay.
No, Father Season. Father Season.
Oh, Father Season.
That's Mother Nature's husband.
Alright, last one, Wolfgang.
I said I can conclude the stranger is a master of wind.
Okay, what was your reasoning?
Because when he blew of his cold,
Okay. Do all the other evidence support that, or is that the only evidence that supports that? So all of our evidence has to support the same idea. We can't just have one support this and one support that, right? Okay, my thinking, my inference, I'll use the sentence starter as well. I can conclude that the stranger is Jack Frost because the thermometer was broken. Okay, when he showed up, the season stopped changing, and when he left, it became fall again. When he blew on the leaf, it changed colors, which means he has a full breath. And at the very end, they get frost with a message written in it every single autumn. And he's also fascinated with birds flying south for the winter. So that's my inference. Again, I don't know if it's correct. Sometimes as readers, we don't know if our inferences are correct or not. Alrighty. What I need you to do next We're moving into independent time. And I'm pulling groups as well. This paper has no backs. If you wrote on the back, that's fine. You didn't write on the whole thing, so just put glue on that side you didn't write on. You're going to fold it in half, just like we've done this many times before. It goes in what section of your reader's notebook? The gray. I'm sorry. I didn't ask anybody to do anything quite yet. In your gray mini note section. So just find the first available page. Remember, put glue on half of it, stick it in. The title can either be making inferences, drawing conclusions, something to that nature. Today is November 30th, the last day of November. Make sure you put the date. Put your clipboard away, put your reader's notebook away. I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes because we got things to do today. We don't have time to dilly-dally.